I made my broadcast. And right now you could wake me up in the middle of the night and give me a theme and I'll teach a subject till the morning comes. Because, because for years all I did was study and teach. And then he began to refine it and then shaped it and said, now you go stand up and talk. Now listen, in the 6th year of the broadcast, I used to say, greetings to you. I am Minister Louis Farrakhan, National Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the principal speaker on this broadcast, whose return to these microphones is expected soon, or something like that. Well, I was saying words, but did I mean it? After 6 years, I'm saying every week he's coming back. Finally, he called me one day. He said, brother, I will be on the broadcast next week from then on. Assalamu alaikum. Hung up the phone. Now he's waiting to see how I introduce him. Do I show remorse, sadness? Gave me a lollipop. And just as the taste was getting good, he said, that's my all-day sucker, I'll take it back. Now that's a smart teacher. And I laid out a beautiful introduction to him, saying, hearken unto the voice of God. I still have the broadcast somewhere, which you can get at some point in time. And after he heard my introduction of him, he called me back. He said, brother, on second thought, you continue. Now, you may think that that's a lightweight matter, but this is not my rostrum, this is his. That house that I live in, that's not my house, that's his. These are not my followers, they're his. I'm over his house by his permission, but I should not get carried away, because one day someone may show up and say, thank you very much. I'll take it from here. Now, can you accept being second after you've been first? Can you accept your mind being built up to be this and then get disappointed? What he was training me for was how to act in his absence. They say on CNN this past week, they had some broadcast talking about the civil rights movement and the civil rights leaders. And they say, I didn't see it, that when they came at the end, the last 3 or 4 minutes, they devoted it to Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And they said Farrakhan has become the premier leader or spokesperson for the hurt of his people. And he is the most listened to. Well, now you can get all pumped up and think more of yourself than you should. But for white folks to make that kind of statement about a man who never wanted this, but by following a good father and trying to be a good son, now the son is becoming one with his Father. I am saying to all of you, you have the potential of being great men of God. The genetic makeup of God himself is in you all. You must accept to be guided aright. And because I allowed myself to be guided by good teachers, I have become one myself. I have very wonderful students, young people around me that are growing in wisdom and discipline. In this audience today are students and disciples of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King was an extraordinary father, not just the father of his children, but the father of those whom he taught and disciplined in a way of struggle for the good and future, not only of his people, but the good and future of America. He was a different kind of father than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But if you go deep into these fathers, you'll see a common root. And that common root is God himself. And so I'm hoping that today some word that God has blessed me to say will inspire you as young men and older men to try to become good fathers. It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. I made mistakes. But when you make mistakes, you must never be too proud to go to your children and say, I was in error over here, or I made a mistake there. And ask your children to forgive you as a father who sincerely tried but messed up here or messed up there. Your children are waiting for you. Right now, somewhere your child is, and you have not been to that child as a father should. I would hope that on this day you will reach out for your child and say to your child that you heard something that stirred in you the desire to try to become a very good father. And the woman who was a mercy from God to you, that furthered you into the future by bringing a child here that looks just like you. Be kind to her. And even if you never make it together, call her and thank her for bringing forth your life. And tell her and mean it, I'm not going to leave you to struggle alone. I'll do my best to be the best father that I can be. And if you will forgive me for my ignorance, or for my weakness, or for my foolishness, I pray that God will bless me to show you that I will be a different kind of man. And that's why we're organizing a march on Washington. In conclusion, I want 1 million black men to unite with me to make a stand on behalf of our women and children, a stand for ourselves, and also a stand on behalf of our ancestors that have long gone and hoped for the day that men like you and me would come together to make a stand for our people. Our women have always been with us, brothers. Our women can't deny us. They're hurt, but they love us. They're hurting, but their hope is that we would make a change. Your hope is not in vain. On October the 16th, among our people, and I will take the oath of death, and everyone that will be a part of it will take the oath of death, that if we violate your trust, execute your leaders. You say that's against the law. It's against the law for a people who have been violated for 400 years to have leaders sell them out. That's against the law. So if you're not ready to die on your word, then leave the people's money alone. Everybody got kind of quiet here. You don't have to execute but a few. The rest of them will get the message. And I'll tell you frankly, I don't intend to be executed. I have been over treasuries with millions of dollars in it. And God is my witness. I have never taken as much as a dime or as little as a penny that did not belong to me. I was trained well to die before I give up the people's money. That's the way Malcolm trained me. It might have been a little extreme. But when they burned my house to the ground, I got my children out first, and I had some of the people's money. I was going into the flames to get the people's money, brother. Because that's to say that there's a social component, a political component, an economic component of the Million Man March. And when we come out of there, the day after, we go right up on Capitol Hill with a group of men with the agenda and sit down and discuss politics, because we're going to deal with reparations. We're going to deal with the crime bill. 3 strikes and you're in for life. Can I ask a question? How many of these young men that are sitting here and standing here have ever been arrested and have 1 strike at least near your record? Would you raise your hand? Now look at this. See how many in the, look sisters, look, just look. Hold them up high, brothers. Now look at this. Do you think all these brothers in here are criminals because they had some run-in with the law? Now look, brothers, if tomorrow you had a 2nd strike, how many have had 2 run-ins? Let me see your hands. Don't be bashful. We are family in here. Ain't nobody gonna dog you. Now all you need is 1 more, huh? And you know what they got? They got a slave. That's what it's all about. Modern slavery. The biggest business in America today is the building of new prisons. And they're not building them for white folk, they're building them for you and me. So when you go to jail for the rest of your life, they got slave labor. Then you will be making this and making that and getting nothing. We can't have that. We are not going to have that. We are not going to have it. Now, brothers, the unity of all of us can make them reconsider the crime bill. Y'all with us? Yes, sir. We want to look at the contract on America, not a contract with America. I say a contract on America, and it's a contract on poor people, a contract on black people, a contract on Native Americans, a contract on those who are called Mexicans, but the indigenous people. We all together, 1 million of us, with many millions more back in the cities, standing firm for one day. And I guarantee you that we will together provide a quality of leadership for our people that as individuals we might never be capable of. To our Christian brothers and sisters, I realize that there's a lot of anti-Islam propaganda. People are saying we are black Muslims and we are doing things, and the Christian church should be worried and afraid that the black Muslims, and by the year 2040, everybody in America will be turning toward Mecca. This is what they're saying. And you got to watch out for that Nation of Islam and that Farrakhan guy. Suppose I tell you that on that day, October the 16th, I'm going to repeat something that Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, has been saying for years. Every black man and woman should join some organization that is working for the advancement of our people. Every one of us. I'm not saying you join the nation. If you like what we are, then you're welcome. But if you don't, fine. Then join the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. Join the NAACP. Join the Urban League. Join the Panthers. Join a street organization as long as it is working for the uplift of our people. We need to learn the discipline of how to work within an organized framework. Suppose I told you that since moral and spiritual renewal is a must, I'm going to ask every black man that when you go home, you must join some mosque, temple, church, synagogue, cathedral of your choice. You need moral and spiritual renewal. And a person that's void of God in their lives is void. So now look at all the churches that are in Chicago. You got some great pastors in this city. Got some bad ones too, but you got some great ones. Now what you do, you investigate. And if there's a pastor that is speaking what you feel is good for you and your family, go join. But you must have spiritual resuscitation. You say, well, Farrakhan, how you going to say that as a Muslim, that we should join a church, man? Elijah Muhammad would be turning over. Yeah, that might be if he were really in a grave. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad would never mind me telling you to join the church of your choice. Because it's not the building. It's not the sign, the cross, or the crescent. It's what's going on in that house. And I, as your brother, am going to challenge the pastors of America for the revival and resuscitation of spiritual life. And believe me, the mosque is going to flourish, but the church will also flourish. And if the mosque and the church are teaching what the scriptures teach, whether it's the Quran or the Bible, and we determine to follow those principles when we come out of the mosque or come out of the church, we'll be walking and meeting each other in the street saying, peace, brother, peace. And there'll be joy and love between all of us. And so nobody needs to be afraid to be a part of something that all of us can benefit from. We have made or hired the Reverend Dr. Benjamin Chavis as the National Director of the Million Man March. He's a Christian minister and a dedicated and committed brother to the liberation of our people. We have a Million Man March Executive Committee. And on that executive committee are Muslims, Christians, Hebrews, business people, scholars, and we on that committee will give directions to the national director. One of the greatest black organizers in this country is not a Muslim in the sense that he's joined the nation, but of course he's a Muslim, if you understand the meaning of that. His name is Bob Brown. Now Bob is a quiet, behind the scenes man, but he's a tactician, logistics genius. See, the Nation of Islam, dear brothers, is not the mosque. The Nation of Islam is as many black people as there are. Every one of them we see as a member of one nation. And so when we reach out for our brothers and sisters who have different ideological or religious frameworks than we, that's the way it's going to be when we become a total nation in a land of our own. You're going to have Christians, Muslims, Hebrews, agnostics. You're going to have Bloods. You're going to have Crips. They're part of the nation. It's not the differences, it's how we manage differences that is a test of our own growth into wisdom. Million Man March. I look forward to that day. I look forward to what happens after that day. I look forward to the following year, when the presidential hopefuls will be in their rooms with the cigars lit, saying, there's millions of them. I gotta get a dashiki. There's millions of them. And we can't buy them all. There's millions of them. And by George, the leaders are afraid to cross them because they made them take an oath of death. By George. I think we're going to have to deal with them. Well, they're having a town meeting and they've given us their agenda. My God. I never thought I'd see the day the niggers would be like this. And then when they see you coming, you'll see them beginning to show you respect. Not because of what group you belong to, but because at last we belong to each other. And if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land and forgive their sins. That is my hope, that on that day God will hear us and smile on us and heal our wounds. And as you saw recently, Sister Betty Shabazz and Louis Farrakhan sit down after 30 years of being separated. And I will say to the Muslim community, there is no need anymore to harbor the things of yesterday. The lessons from yesterday must be learned by us all. But there is no need to keep digging up that which should be buried and hurling it into the face of the present to destroy our future. Malcolm has earned his place among our people, and many of us who are ministers today have not made as many converts to Islam as Malcolm still makes from beyond the grave. And many of us who are alive have not affected as many hearts for change and for good as a man that lies dead in his grave. There are aspects of his life with which we have disagreement. But if those disagreements cannot be discussed intelligently, unemotionally, that we might learn the lessons of history, then we should not speak at all. Malcolm has a family out there, not just his immediate family. I'm speaking about a family of black men and women who were touched by him, and even in death, even though the enemy of all of us has lifted Malcolm in a way that they hoped would create love on one side for Malcolm, love on our side from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, hatred on the side that loved Malcolm for Elijah Muhammad, hatred for Malcolm on our side, so that one day we could cancel each other out. That's to the joy of our enemies. So let God be the judge of that part of our history. Sister Shabazz, on that night at the Apollo Theater, if you didn't hear it, there's a tape. You should get it. It's called A New Beginning. Sister Shabazz said, "Don't trash my husband. And please don't forget the accomplishments that he did or made within that organization." I heard her appeal, and in truth, brothers, I know the help that Malcolm was to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I was one of those who was blessed to be a part of that progress. Brother Abdullah was here then as a great minister. In fact, stand up, Brother Abdullah, come out here. You may not know this brother, but this brother at that time, his name was John Shabazz of Mosque number 27 in Los Angeles, California. He was the minister there when the police attacked that mosque, killing our brothers and maiming them in cold blood. This man was one of the only men in the nation that at that time was looked to in comparison with the greatness of Malcolm. It was this brother right here. And he and Malcolm, when the messenger was very sick, the messenger called him and Malcolm to his bedside, because it would have been either this brother or Malcolm that would have headed the nation if anything had happened to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad at that time. I was just a young minister, very spiritual brother. Don't go anywhere, brother. And he and I were like buddies. But I always respected Brother Abdullah, and I respect him today as one of the most brilliant men that you would have an occasion to meet. But as I talk about Malcolm X and what he brought into my life, this is not to say, dear Muslims, that time disallows us to examine the two men that are involved in this controversy and make an intelligent judgment that history will say we unemotionally understood the value of those who went before us. But for us to continue this dialogue of bitterness, this dialogue of hatred, is not in the best interest of our people. Now Malcolm has thousands of children out there, and so does the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. As Malcolm and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came from the same source, then these children must not be allowed to see themselves as the enemies of their brothers. Do you follow what I'm saying? So in order to effect a healing, we have got to make some definitive change in the way we approach that split. Now, as a person sitting in the seat of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and very mindful by Allah's grace of my responsibility, I see in the long term of the teachings, back, the school back, sales and office building back, new salon, the trucks back, the farm back. It isn't that Farrakhan had the idea. Farrakhan saw and helped Elijah do it once. And without his vision, I wouldn't have nothing to see by. So the honor belongs to God and the credit belongs to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But he had prepared my heart to do exactly what I'm doing. And so happy Father's Day to every father in the house. And may God bless you and me to be the best father that you and I can be. And from this day forward, I hope you will get the tape and analyze the words and go back home and begin to study and fill your mind with knowledge, because knowledge will help you to guide your children, guide your family, and have a zeal to make money without lying, stealing, cheating. Your children need shoes, food, clothing, shelter. You need money. Think when you go home and ask Allah, God, help me to make a way. The ant is eating. Spider's eating. The flea is eating. The bee is eating. All the bugs are not dying from malnutrition. Foxes have holes. Birds have nests. Why must I, the Son of Man, have no place to lay my head? I'm asking God, help me to make a job for myself. And if you don't know how, come on back to the mosque and let us help you. I ain't saying join if you don't want to. Just come back and let us help you to be the great man that God already created you to be, and that you potentially are. Every one of you is my superior in some way.